was very keen to get involved in the movie industry. I didn't know quite where I was going to apply myself. I had trained as an actor in the mid-80s, and at the other end of it I started doing some acting work when I graduated. But I think the thing that I kept coming back to was this. I love this idea of the act of presenting movies and presenting them optimally, the best picture and sound possible. And I think that was what drew me to the THX division of Lucasfilm. In fact, even as a kid, I'd collected Super 8 films and I used to put on film shows and stuff, so I'd always had this passion. And I contacted the THX division of Lucasfilm and said I'd love to work for you guys, and they said, well, you'd need to get your papers and blah blah blah, papers to be able to live and work in the States. But anyway, from the moment of deciding that I wanted to do that, it was almost 2 years to the day that I walked in the door as an employee. So I sort of hassled them to let me come over and work with them, and eventually it happened. But of course I did have to get a green card to be able to go and live and work there. But yeah, everybody has very delineated responsibilities because it was a large company. I mean, Industrial Light and Magic, the visual effects division, had about 1,200 employees at the time. Lucas Licensing, which was one of the most successful, if you like, parts of the company, was involved in licensing out the Star Wars brand name to licensees. And so we all had our very specific areas, and THX, of course, was all about the presenting films optimally. I mean, all the companies really came out of the original Star Wars film because I think Lucas saw a need for certain vendors or the supply of services which weren't available up until that point, and so he created this little portfolio of companies that could not only feed into his own productions, but he could offer as services to others as well. And so, yeah, I mean, at Lucasfilm, Star Wars was never far off our radar. We always we used some of the Star Wars characters in the marketing of THX. I also, because I was working in marketing when I first got to THX, I also had to organise character appearances and had quite a lot of interaction with the archives as well. And I got to know the producer of the films very well, Rick McCallum, and so I also got a little role in The Empire Strikes Back, actually, in the special edition in '96, as playing a Cloud City guard. So yeah, there was there was a lot of, you were never far away from it, because, you know, part and parcel of all the Lucasfilm marketing and messaging was in part supported by the Star Wars universe. Yeah, Star Wars was one of the first films. I think A Star Is Born was one of the first theatrical films to use Dolby Stereo, and then of course Lucas wanted to capitalise on that technology again as well. But I think with the opening Star Destroyer sequence, with it approaching from behind the audience, I think that was probably one of the things that sold it sold it on a large scale, and certainly it ended up pushing Dolby. What he was trying to achieve with THX, though, was not so much the software or the means by which you play back multi-channel sound, but the environment in which you play back multi-channel sound. So that was what was key. It was creating the ultimate environment for listening to and watching a movie. I think one thing I love about their systems is they almost make the speakers completely disappear. Like, the sound stage is so extensive and yet not speaker specific, you almost can't identify the speakers. Extraordinary dynamics. And the other thing I love about the Steinway and the Lyngdorf systems as well is how integrated the bass is. It feels like it's just intrinsically part of the mid-range and high frequencies, and I love that marriage of all three, but that integration of the bass is definitely, I would say, reasonably unique. In fact, in my review, I think I called the bass invisible because you literally can't place it. It's just natural and alive. I think the Room Perfect system really does sort of make the room disappear, and it's almost as if Room Perfect's algorithms are so intelligent that it seems to know what's going on inside that particular space. And the difference between a pre-calibrated and post-calibrated system with Room Perfect is night and day. It really does make every room sound fantastic, and yeah, I would certainly agree with that. Whereas you can't necessarily guarantee that. I mean, the Dirac and Odyssey systems will definitely improve things, but this idea that you almost completely eliminate the room with Room Perfect, I've been very impressed with that. And you certainly pay for it with a Lyngdorf or a Steinway system, and yes, whatever R&D they've put into develop that system, I would say yes, it's probably, in terms of man hours and intellectual resources poured into that, yes, I would say it's at a different level completely, I would say, yeah. A company like Steinway has a legacy to protect as well. I mean, everything seems to have a gloss black finish in many cases to reflect, I guess, the pianos themselves. So yes, people want that aesthetic allure and quality to be associated with very high-end equipment. But, you know, as with everything, it's all really, yes, you can get all kinds of systems with different levels of performance, but really in the end people are looking for a price performance, or price divided by performance. That ratio is what directs most people's choices, I think. I was aware of a huge soundstage, both perceivable both in the horizontal and in the vertical plane as well, and listening to a drum track we've just been listening to, sort of, I don't know if they were African or Japanese drums, but certainly the placement within the soundstage was extraordinarily accurate, and beautiful depth and imaging as well. I don't know that there's a home theatre system that necessarily competes, but yeah, extraordinary accuracy and dynamics, and to get that kind of performance from such a tiny speaker is quite revolutionary. In fact, the first time I saw or heard a Steinway system wasn't here. I heard it at a trade show actually with those very same S-series speakers, and yeah, I was blown away with it.